Hey, my name is Gabriel Fortuna, and in this video, we're going to take a look at my approach for working with Ableton Live's tension to create guitar sounds. Before we start, we need to understand that tension is a physical modeling string synthesizer. That is to say, an instrument that generates the tones in real time using complex models to emulate the sound of a string being plucked or bowed. So let's start by loading a preset. Make sure you go over to the instruments and then expand the little arrow next to tension. I'm only going to focus on guitar and plucked presets for today because I find that these presets are where tension really excels. Now, these presets are very raw, so we're going to have to add some audio effects and be careful when we program in the MIDI. So let's scroll down though, and I'm going to show you three of my favorite presets in here, which are the Jazz, Basic, Bright, and Soft guitars. These are awesome for a variety of different things, especially if you're looking for an electric guitar type of sound. Now, I've prepared some chords that I'd like to play with, and I'm going to be using the Jazz Soft guitar on these chords. Now, tension's interface can be a little bit overwhelming, but I'm going to show you a couple of places that you can start with to tweak the sound and start making some meaningful changes. So first up is the string section. There are things like the decay of the string that you can adjust. Then the inharmonic content of the strings. This is great if you're looking for a kind of less perfect sound, or a very pure sound. And then there's damping. And this is one of my favorite things to automate because you can emulate the sound of palm muting your strings with the palm of your hands and create this type of sound. But if you're just looking for an open string sound, I would recommend somewhere around 60 to 70% usually works. Another control that's great to play with here is the pickup position. I also like to tweak the filter in tension because a lot of the presets can really come to life if you open them up. And the last thing I like to mess with is the error control. This will introduce randomness to all the different parameters in tension. So be careful turning it too high, otherwise it's going to sound out of tune. I usually set this around 20, maybe 25% if I'm looking for that little bit of randomness. Now let's talk about the MIDI portion here. I have prepared a chord progression, but it doesn't really sound like a guitar being strummed. One common technique you can use is to just zoom in really close into your MIDI and then change the timing of each note. Now, I find this to be a little bit tedious, so I created a MIDI effect that allows me to strum any chord up or down with ease. Now, I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can go check it out, but it is part of my essential MIDI effects pack. Now, moving on from the chords, let's talk about the velocity. One trick I like to use is to vary the velocity of the notes like this. One thing you can also do is add a little bit of random velocity. I happen to have a random velocity slider on that chord strummer. Now, let's say you're working on a chord pattern and you're re-strumming a chord the way I am here, but you don't want the notes to re-trigger like this. Maybe you just want them to continue ringing out and then just being replayed. To do this, you can actually go into the MIDI clip and go to your envelopes, MIDI control, and find number 64, hold pedal. Now, this will create the effect that you're re-strumming the chord while the other notes were still resonating. Just make sure that you reset the hold pedal between chord changes. Now, if you're not a fan of working with the clip envelopes and digging through all those drop-down menus, you can also pick up my free MIDI hold pedal device in the Essential MIDI Effects pack. This will allow you to automate that same control from arrangement view. Just make sure you reset between chord changes. Now let's add some audio effects to make the sound way better. Starting up with drive and color, I'm going to add the amp and cabinet. Now for the amp, I'm going to set this to clean. I'll turn up the gain, but this will all be relative to the output volume of your instrument. And then I'm going to really crank the mids. I like it mid-rangey for the guitar, and turn down the presence. We can leave pretty much everything else as is. Feel free to explore any of these other types of amp models. Now for the speaker, it's really a matter of taste. So go through the drop-down menu and see which one you like best. Now for the microphone, here you have an option of where you want the microphone to be placed in front of this virtual amplifier. And then you can decide whether you'd like to use a condenser or dynamic microphone model that's picking up that signal. Now for other effects, I definitely recommend the glue compressor and the chorus. The compressor can go before or after, but I like to use this compressor before the amp, and just imagine this is like a guitar pedal that's going into the amplifier. So I'm going to turn the threshold down. Let's just turn up the attack a little bit. And that chorus, same thing, it could go before or after. Let's see what it sounds like before the amp. Now I'm going to group and save this preset for you guys so that you can download this and play with this sound as well. Now let's see what happens if we add some mixing and spatial effects. For this, I'm going to be pulling presets from the Essential Audio Effects pack. Now this is completely free, so I'll drop a link in the description of the video so you can go check it out. I'm going to start with the mixing channel strip, which is my favorite go-to channel strip. I like to cut the lows and then turn up the compressor. There we go. And then I might accent this mid-high band. Next, I'm going to add the Echo Verve parallel rack, and this is just going to add a little bit of delay and reverb. And to finish this off, I'm going to add a velocity MIDI effect and just tweak the output and drive just to see if we can get a bit of a better tone. And now here's one last tip to make the sound even better in the context of a track. Now, when you strum a chord, it's going to pluck one note at a time, which means that the higher note is going to arrive late. What I'd recommend doing is just extend the beginning of your clip backwards and grab all your chords and maybe start them a little bit earlier. And see if you can find the right timing so that the last note that is being strummed will land on beat 1 of your pattern. Check it out with a metronome. Now let's hear that with some music. Finally, I'm just going to show you a quick example of how these tricks can be applied to a guitar arpeggio as well.
It's been a while since the last time we glanced into each other's eyes.
And I'm gonna wrap up the video here, but don't forget to check out the links in the description to grab those devices that I was showing you. And of course, like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the loop.
I couldn't take